I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. We are working with the Perelman Performing Arts Center reimagined production of Cats called Cats, the Jellicle Ball to bring you a series of episodes during the run, and we are on to their third extension. So I'm honored to have Teddy Wilson Jr. here with me today. Teddy is performing as Syllabub. So welcome, Teddy, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, this will come out during your... I would been saying your break, but I don't think you're getting a break. But without performances during the couple of weeks, and then it's going to be a 3-week sprint to the end. So I'm excited that you're getting that extra time and that more people are getting a chance to see the show because it's been incredible and it was sold out for a while. But I want to ask you, as a musical theater person, take me to the beginning of your Cats history. When was the first time you saw it or learned about Cats the musical?
Okay, so I remember I watched the filmed production of Cats on YouTube, like probably when I was like in middle school sometime around then. And I remember seeing it and I wasn't like really into musical theater. I hadn't like been in the show ever, but like I was a little mini gay and there was people dancing in leotards and singing high. And I was like, oh wait, this is probably something I should watch.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it and I was always obsessed with Victoria, the white cat. And I was like, because of course, like she's the softest girl in that show. And I was like, that's the one. She doesn't sing a lick, but she's the purest, beautiful, just like elegant on stage. And like, I was like, that's it. And then of course, I think it's Elaine who was in the filmed version of it. I think it's her.
Okay.
And I remember watching her and I was like, wait, that's so cute. And then I sang Touch Me for a good week, sang Memory for a good week after that. Had it on my brain on loop. But yeah, Cats. I think it was about 2012 when I first listened to it.
Okay, so you watched the 1998 movie growing up, but on YouTube, which is great.
Yes.
So that is what is on YouTube. You also, it seems like, I think you've had at least Ken Page and Jacob Brent come through your show that I've seen. Yeah. So you've got to meet a couple of that cast has been able to come see the show, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the original McCavity, original Mr. Mistopheles, and
original Deuteronomy, Ken Page.
Original Deuteronomy, yeah. They were all there. Okay. And it's kind of like they show up and it's like, oh my gosh, we're doing that show, but like not that show.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I got to speak with Jacob about it and we put an episode out because it is like it's different but the same, and so there's a lot of like really cool parallels to it, and it's so fun. So you had never really listened full through or like really seen a production. You just watched YouTube clips until
it was
2020.
YouTube clips up until I eventually got into a workshop for Cats, and I was like, oh, I should probably listen to the score so I know what to sing when I come on to rehearsal. But yeah, that was my first time.
I love it. So you did score. You never sat down and watched the whole thing from start to finish, did you?
No, I don't think I did.
Have you still to this day?
Is it bad to say I haven't?
No, not at all. Because you're doing a different production, and like there's two schools of thought, and I found it really interesting. I've talked to people who've said it's kind of nice to go in fully fresh because it allows you to create your character and not kind of base everything off of what you've seen one time or the version you've seen or know. But at the same time, there's also like, maybe you do watch it and pick some stuff up. It's so, the film version's also a little bit like they point the camera to directions of like what they want you to see.
Exactly.
Versus seeing it like on stage, even then where there's a lot going on. But I love it. So you were part of the workshop. This would have been 2 to 4 years ago, depending on when you jumped in.
Yes, I did the first workshop. At least I think it was the first one. The first like workshop that was cast in 2022, like a few months after graduating from college. And I remember going into the audition and like, trying my best to feel like not feline, but still like cunty And I remember stepping into the workshop the first time and being with all these like amazing, like crazy performers and feeling very much like imposter syndrome for a lot of it. But also feeling accepted and welcome, and, just being with the project at that stage of its life was really inspiring. And like ever since, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope they call me back. I hope they call me back.
Yeah. Do you remember what was the casting notice for Syllabub at that time? Because I remember these casting notes went viral because they were a little strange for what people were not used to. Like no one knew at that time what it was.
Yeah, I remember my agent sent it to me, and I was like, oh, this is not cats.
Yeah.
They're not cats. And I think for Syllabub, they were looking for someone who, had that childlike wonder and a good dancer, good singer. I actually think at one point they were looking for a plus size person to be Syllabub, which I'm not. So when they called me back for that, I was like, oh, I think you mixed something up, because that's not me. But I think they really saw my version of Syllabub in my audition, and they were like, yeah, let's try that.
Okay, let's talk about Syllabub then.
Oh my gosh, please.
I want to hear your version. So like, I love hearing a little bit of like what was told to you about Syllabub versus what did you get to kind of create through this process?
Well, Syllabub, if you've seen the show, is very different from how I feel it's traditionally played. Historically, I feel like Syllabub is a very symbolic character and kind of, like sings memory with Grisabella, but it's kind of like, at a distance, askance, like on top of an old tire where she's like, and she's just singing. But in this version, I think they really wanted to create this relationship between Syllabub and Grisabella and Deuteronomy to have this storyline and through line of like really giving meaning to why Syllabub might be singing in the moments that she is singing and what she is singing about. I know that in our first workshop, we did some table work, with me and Grisabella. And what happened, we kind of started working with Grisabella was the house mother for the house that Syllabub is now in, and maybe like Syllabub, went away and came back and is really confused about the new point of view of the community at Grisabella, and like how do we work with that? And it started there, and then it kind of molded to this other thing where, Syllabub is a new cat entering into the world and knows of Grisabella, knows of really all the cats. I kind of treat Syllabub as the Gen Zer who like watches the reels on Instagram and it's like PhD of Vogue and things like that. It's like, has always lived and knows these people by name, but has never experienced them in a space and been to a ball. Maybe she's been to one ball once before. And like maybe she walked like one category and like that was her like, big moment. She was really excited about that. And, bringing that life into Syllabub as in this production, she's more of a watcher, and like she is this outside perspective or the audience perspective on stage, learning about the cats, learning about the names of cats and how each cat has a very specific category that they walk and like what these categories mean. And I think Syllabub is that point of view of curiosity, of wonder, of, enjoyment, of appreciation, but also of learning and finding out new things and seeing the messy side as well as the beautiful side that you don't see on the reels and on TikTok and things like that.
Yeah. I love everything about that you're saying, because when I saw you do the performance and I saw your Syllabub, I've always been fascinated by how you view the story of cats, like as an audience member, because the version I first saw in 2016 on Broadway as a revival, it's a pretty loose storyline and there's not a lot of directing you through it. And then the movie that we don't want to talk about from 2019.
Yes.
They gave us at least Victoria as the lens to watch the whole thing through. And I kind of felt like you and Syllabub are the lens to almost watch this production through. Monkish Trap is our narrator and kind of talking us through all the different things. But the moments that kind of continue to move the story forward, seems like you pop into them as Syllabub. It's like there's a moment where you're here doing this. There's a moment where like I feel like if I just follow you around the stage, I'm gonna know where to look at all times because you're observing at the right spots. And I love some of the things you do with Grisabella. Like I hope we're not spoiling. It's been around now. And enough, I think we can say this, where if you haven't seen it yet and you're listening to this, then hopefully you'll get a chance to see it. But you're the one that brings the dress out and you're the one that kind of like has all these moments with Grisabella. So it does fit. I love the Gen Z. Like you don't really know her. Like, you don't know Grisabella that well, but you have watched enough that you kind of feel like maybe you do. And you're now there, like you're going to get your moment. So that's a really fun version of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that you could watch Syllabub and know where to look, because that was actually my intention. Part of my way of going through this track and like figuring out what Syllabub was, and taking the note of you are the audience perspective, you are that lively, joyous, having a great time. Like, so I made an intentional choice that during each of the cats numbers, I'm kind of in their area. Like during Bustifer's number, I'm sitting at the bar that Bustifer owns. And, like if you're watching, like I always say, like if they put this little special on me, like that will be the clearest idea of like, oh, you're supposed, if you look at me and you can see where I'm looking and I'm, pushing that energy out on stage. I do that during the cavity. I do it during Mungo Jerry Rumble Teaser. Like I'm always sat in a point of view where, you can look and follow the story. So it's like that shows through.
Yeah. How do you as a performer still really build and add to that story when you maybe aren't always in the like front of the catwalk or going through? Because you do so much work for that story, but it's not as I would say, like there's not a song for Syllabub. There's not the like about Syllabub and here's why we need to know Syllabub type of thing. So how do you like try to do that as a performer?
Standing on the sidelines and being a watcher throughout the show has really helped me become an ensemble member. And honestly, the help of the ensemble around, like, things are happening on stage during tag team performance with Mungo Jerry and Rumble Teaser. And then, Victoria and Tumble Brutus, they do their thing. And so like, I'm on the side with Jelly Laura. I mean, we're cheering on, we have our opinions, we're talking, we're having ad-libs, the things that we can say without, pulling too much focus to really build that storyline. And, sometimes it's as simple as what does Syllabub know here and what does she not know? So like when they're like, Deuteronomy has buried 99 wives, I might say, I'm like, oh, 99, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's a different point of view than, somebody like Monkeystrap who has been here time and time again. It's like, it's definitely 99 wives. Like it's not 9,
Yeah. I'm curious a little bit about you. You mentioned the Gen Z on, TikToking or watching social media, but then if I'm not mistaken, you have a like camera around your neck.
I do.
That's an old school camera. Is that one? My first question is, are you actually taking photos? That like, is there like a collection you have somewhere of everything you've been taking throughout the shows?
So it's funny because that's actually something we added to the show right before opening, like the day before. So it's kind of like we were trying to figure out how do we really, push that that envelope of Syllabub being the watcher. And, Zhailon, one of our directors, came up to me and was like, what if you had a camera? You just like snap photos with a little flash. And I am actually taking pictures.
Okay.
I'm like actually lighting them up. I'm like, oh, I have to like get this a good shot. I don't know if they are going to print them because it's a real disposable cameras. I've gone through probably like 20 of them throughout this run. And the camera's real. I'm taking real pictures. And that camera to me is that extra bit of, let me snap this moment, because throughout the entire show, and specifically in Act 2, there's like this idea of paying homage to the people who came before in the history. And I feel like that camera for me is, also documenting this momentous time. Like before in Act 1, it's really about, having the fun and getting a good like memorabilia to take back home, you know, to show my friends wherever Syllabub's friends might be outside of the Jellicle Ball. And Act 2, it comes, you know, we do Moments of Happiness, and then we do Gusset Theater Cat, and it's really about, you know what, this is a moment in history that we do need to solidify. And I'm hoping I'm actually going to talk to marketing and be like, can we like make a yearbook? Because I've taken so many pictures, and I'm making a point to get moments that I think are integral to the story, as well as, you know, being a fun little thing for the cast to be able to look back on and say that we, you know, did this revolutionary version of Cats that no one was expecting, but it seems everyone loves.
Yeah, it's so cool because the first time I saw you do it, I was like, I hope this is actually taking a photo and not just prop.
I know, right?
And I do love the parallels because, like you mentioned, you've got the, you know, Syllabub is supposed to be a younger cat observing, and you're using an old disposable camera, like, you know, a technology that's very outdated at this point, although maybe would be trendy and coming back for Gen Z, you know, that type of thing.
It definitely is trending and come back. I actually, in my room, I have a photo wall from college, because I think it was about the time like post-COVID, after 2020, everybody was like, you know what, let's like start taking photos on disposable cameras. So like they've actually gotten way more expensive. They're like $20 for a pack of 2, and you know, you get them developed, you pass them out to your friends, they give you a little CD now so you can like save them and really have the memories and everything. So yes.
Do you have any moments that you have taken during your show where you're like, oh, that one is going to be good?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Like during Rumple Teaser, Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser, they like do this high kick, and one time I got it right perfect when they were both of their legs were extended, and I was like, that's going to be a great picture. I always take one at the end of Victoria's solo, and she like places her hand on her neck, and I'm centered right in front of her. Monkey straps in the background. That's a great picture. I've gotten a lot of Mr. Mistopheles, because how can you not?
Yeah.
Like I take like 5 pictures throughout that one number, and I'm like, that's great. That's great. That's great. Let me get the Mr. Mistopheles Rum Tum Tugger moment, especially if you know, you know.
Oh yeah. They know.
But yeah. There are a few. I try to get one for each number that I can, that it fits dramaturgically, because it is a flash camera. So I can't always be like, click, because everybody will be like, what's going on? But
have you hit any audience members? Have you gotten any good, like, oh, this person's into it, let's capture their moment?
Yeah. Definitely have taken pictures of audience members. Taken in the beginning, actually, the first thing I do is when I say, can you find your way blind, I snap a picture of the audience so they know like this is going to be happening throughout the show. And I think every time somebody's always like, oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, next time I come, I'm gonna
tell me where you're sitting.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, all right, come get me. And then we'll have to get them all developed. No, it's such a good idea to get them developed and have that, like, you know, it's throughout the run too. Because like, there's obviously the ones that marketing's going to do and the true production photos, but these are very in the moment. I mean, these are as authentic as you can get of the performance, and you're doing it every night. So you've got just
there's loads.
A ton of really cool pictures. All right, we're gonna be, if it doesn't happen, I'm starting to send emails after. If I don't see them by a month like, after the run ends.
I'm crafting mine like, excuse me, hi, we need a yearbook.
Yeah,
I'm president of the yearbook club. That's what I'm doing.
We're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. What other like relationships do you feel with Syllabub have you kind of crafted with the other characters? Because again, it's not one where it's not Tugger Mistopheles, where it's well documented on fan fiction and art and everywhere else. There's a little bit more of like the Grisabella relationship is very clear, but some of the rest are a little bit more, I think you have more freedom to play with. So which ones have you built out?
Well, some of the main relationships are between Syllabub and Bustopher Jones, and then Syllabub and Monkeystrap.
Okay.
Throughout the previews and text, they were kind of like, "Oh, we kind of need a hand to do this," and suddenly Syllabub kind of became the stagehand of the bar. So me and Bustopher kind of established this relationship that they are like, "Oh, like, can you go sweep up those petals that you just threw on the ground? Thank you." Like, almost like that, and like bring out this fan, grab got this sign. So me and Butsford definitely have a budding relationship throughout the show where it's like they become almost like taking me in and, you know, showing me the way. And Monkeystrap being this fatherly figure throughout the ball is always there for Syllabub. You know, we always check in, but like they're like powerhead in the space, but also like just loving, gentle person to Syllabub especially. And I think those two relationships have definitely crafted. I also think the relationship between Deuteronomy has been, you know, there's this like almost like connection between the two of them where Deuteronomy will just give Syllabub a look, or like they'll like he'll be like, "You're new here. It's okay, boo. Take your time. You'll get it in the end. I promise."
It seems very clear that you are the newest, either Jellicle or the youngest, or the one that's kind of experienced this ball for the first time. So it's a good parallel for my next question and a good segue to it. How much ballroom culture and knowledge did you have before getting into this project? Because like as someone who had the theater background and then having these icons of Junior Blasia and, you know, this Silk and Baby and Primo and Deva and all these other people from the ballroom scene and ballroom world, it was such a cool thing to hear for me to hear from everybody. But I walked in the first time I saw the show with very little ballroom knowledge. I mean, I knew the general idea, and then I was able to see Paris is Burning. But to put this on authentically, I know you had to have, like, you had a bunch of people involved, but how much for you did you know going in versus did you learn as you were building out the show?
So I had always been very aware of the ballroom scene. I think, you know, after graduating college, I didn't have any really real connection. Like, I'm not in a ballroom house. But I came here one summer after college, and I was like, me and my friends, we went to a ball, and I actually kind of did the Syllabub thing where I walked my first category. I walked Virgin Runway, and like I like got my 10s, and then I got chopped. So it was literally kind of like Virgin Vogue where I got my 10s, and they were like, "Sorry, you're chopped," and I was like, "Okay, that's fine." I had a great time while doing it. But you know, growing up in a conservative household, and like I'm from South Florida, the ballroom scene isn't as extravagant and as grand as it is here in New York City.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have that inlet through there. But coming into this process, you know, I've made so many friends with the ballroom people. You know, me, Baby, Primo, and Silk have been with this project since the first workshop. And so I do feel like we are a ballroom house. The Jellicles, I like to call us, the Jellicle cats, that's our ballroom house. But I feel like my connection to ballroom has grown. But it was definitely, you know, there were some growing pains, you know, being from a predominantly musical theater background, you know, not necessarily knowing the vocabulary or feeling like I had the agency to, you know, join in moments, you know, when the Voguers are voguing down on our breaks and things like that, because there's a certain level of reverence, and you really want to respect the culture, and ballroom historically is very cutthroat, and musical theater people are very like sensitive. So like you don't ever want to cross the line to the point where they're like, you know, that's a chop to you, because then it's like, ow, my feelings hurt. But also throughout the process, you kind of learn that just because it is cutthroat doesn't mean that it's malicious. It's more so just about the energy, and that the energy of ballroom just flows throughout even the rehearsal process, even when we're on breaks. Like, and it is about inclusivity for the Black and brown queer community to really feel liberated and feel able to have that agency to say, well, that's a chop themselves, you know? So I definitely have grown to feel more in tune, and I am looking at ballroom houses myself. You know, we have two legendary ballroom fathers as choreographers. You know, some people have joined the Orichis, who is Omari's house, and Arturo's house father, Gene Blair. And, you know, I have interest in both of them. It's hard because you can't do both. You have to choose one. But there's also like the Kiki scene. I'm thinking of joining a house in the Kiki scene and trying to find a family through there. very excited for what my ballroom experience will be post this production.
Yeah, I think this has been a recruitment effort for a few people. It seems like it is. I found the parallels to what I've learned about ballroom through talking to these amazing ballroom performers and people from the scene for this show has been really cool because it does parallel. Like I know Cats, and that's what I know now. And there are some parallels of there's this fierceness, there's this competition, but it's also there's this family, and like there is the Jellicles are family, and they might bug you. You might be fighting with them. You might be kind of wanting to be the winner tonight of the Jellicle choice, but at the end of the day, you're all there together. And I felt that it's very similar to ballroom, which is why this parallel worked so well, and it's why it's succeeding. And then your all's energy and performance is what has caught everybody's attention, because it's got a clear storyline and it's fun, it's entertaining, and the energy is, I think everyone's been using the word electric, which is what I said the first time I saw it. And I've loved that every time I've seen it. I've had I've seen it twice. I've been fortunate to see it twice. I have tickets for a third time in the last one, hoping to come back at least once more. But I think what I've loved each time is the first time I went, it was a second preview. It was mostly ballroom and Cats people or theater people. Like it was people who very early on were like, I've heard about this. I'm ready. The second time was right before BroadwayCon, and it was a wide range. And I was sitting with a 6-year-old kid next to me, and I had these two older ladies to my side, and I asked them, I was like, hey, how did you decide this show? And they're like, we don't know. We just heard it was great. And so I love that is now like, you're getting much more of the masses to come because, and then they loved it. They could not have had a better time. They were jamming through the whole thing. And I think that's a really cool thing because one is it's bringing, I think, some Cats haters around. Because there's a lot of Cats haters that are now like, oh, it's clear. I understand it. And two, I think you're bringing a little bit more awareness to a community and culture and just that maybe wasn't as well known to segments of the population. And I think that's a really cool piece. Like I love the moments of happiness and the history that is put up for everyone to see to kick off Act 2. And then it's also right before you bring out Junior, who's just, who's Gus to a T, as perfect as you can get.
It lines up perfectly. It's absolutely upsetting.
So, okay, I want to do some rapid fire because I want to get to the Jellicle choices, especially coming from Syllabub's lens. It's such an interesting question for you. But before that, first one is, if you could go on for any other cat, whether you could sing it, dance it, male, female, who would you want to perform as for one night?
I think I would want to do either Bombalurina or Demeter, because Macavity was one of my favorite songs when I used to listen to the actual, like, just moments. I would always click on Macavity because it's like, that's the big belty number. And I actually, for my audition, I auditioned with the Macavity song. I sang Bombalurina's verse. And I was serving cunt, like giving split, crawling on the floor, screaming, singing, da 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 da. And then they were literally like, you're the baby. And I was like, okay, great. But definitely Bombalurina and Demeter for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that song. Who are your favorite and least favorite Cats from like a personality wise? So who would you like to hang out with and who would bug you?
I think Mungo Jerry and Rumble Teaser scare me.
Okay.
They're like in our production, they're, the brassy, attitude, like Mungo Jerry literally says, are you mean like a minx? And I, like, from that moment, I steal the autograph from Remington Tugger from Rumble Teaser, and she gets it back. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm scared of you. Y'all are great. But I think the people who I want to be the closest friends with is probably the Tumble Brutus and Victoria in our production. Because, they're the coolest cats. Like, they vogue down each and every time. So, yeah.
They do. I've told a few people to watch them do their dancing, if you're going, because the two of them, Primo and Baby, do some work throughout the show, and they're doing crazy things that isn't always necessarily maybe the front center. Because like even in the Mungo Jerry Rumple Teaser number, they're like so heavily featured, and they're almost villainous in that sense, because then they're competing with the song. And the last time I saw it, I was like, dang, these two are getting after it.
Yes, they
it's
are.
impressive to watch. Favorite song? Is it McCavity?
Oh, actually, my favorite song to watch is actually Mungo Jerry Rumple Teaser.
Okay.
Because it is just a marathon of a song. And my castmates are up there on that stage eating every single bit of it. Like, there's so many words. They're flipping, they're splitting, they're turning upside down. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, it blows my mind every single time.
Yeah. And they do that costume change and all that. Like, there's so much involved to that one. Is Syllabub in a house?
Syllabub is 007. So
Okay.
she's not in a house. It's her first time, but I think by the end of the night, she's has her eyes on a few houses, and I think a few houses have their eyes on her as well.
So I guess that's the two questions in here. Is one is where do you think Syllabub's going if she's joining? And if not, what is Syllabub's house name going to be if she's creating her own house?
Oh, okay. I think if she was to join a house, she would join probably the House of McCavity.
Okay.
Just because I feel like the energy and those are another set of relationships between me and Demeter and Syllabub and Bomblerina that also grow throughout the show. And there's moments where it's like, I like y'all. Y'all are the fashionable ones.
Yeah.
So I think she would join the House of McCavity. And if she had to make her own, it'd probably be called like Florals, the Florals, or something like that. Because she's always talking about flowers.
Yeah. Okay. So the $1 million question is, I've argued at length, I don't think Grisabella is the right Jellicle choice. I do think your production makes it a lot harder. But as Syllabub, who kind of really ushers that story through, who's Syllabub's correct Jellicle choice? And then who's Teddy's correct Jellicle choice?
Okay, so Syllabub's correct Jellicle choice is Deaf Grisabella, because Syllabub's confused right off the gate when everybody's like, oh, who is that? I'm like, girl, that's Grisabella. What do you mean? That is the legend Grisabella walking into the space. And like, yeah, she looks a little rough, but that's fine. She has history. She doesn't have to look amazing to walk into the space. So I definitely think Syllabub is like, oh no, Grisabella. And that's why she's like Deuteronomy, like this is the third time Grisabella enters the space when she's about to sing, when she sings Memory. And, Syllabub goes, Deuteronomy, she's leaving. We can't let her leave this last time. And Deuteronomy's like, take it away.
Yeah.
So she runs and she's like, please stay, just walk, just do it, just put yourself out there. And I think she's so thrilled when Grisabella is chosen. Teddy, however, I don't know if this is revolutionary to say, but I do think that Mr. Mistopheles is the Jellicle choice. Like, he brings Deuteronomy back. And that number, especially in this production, is just so monumental and filled with such joy and, like gay rights,
Yeah.
So I think Mr. Mistopheles is in my Jellicle choice, Teddy's Jellicle choice, because it's just how can the person who brought back the Jellicle leader not go to the heavy side later? Even if Grisabella is ratted and tatted and probably needs it.
Yeah, it's a philosophical question on what do you think the criteria is and what do you think the heavy side layer is, right? Like that's really ultimately what it breaks down to. And so I love the Mistopheles choice, because I have noticed your production has kind of flipped a little bit of the script on this because of the way the story is told and just the nuances, because it's still the same story, but there are different kind of pieces to it. Because before this production, it was a 2-cat race. It was Grisabella and Gus, and that was it. I mean, there were some votes here and there, but now I think in your production a little bit more, it's been more Grisabella and Mistopheles. A lot more. And I do think that's an interesting kind of like small tweak and difference, because Mistopheles got some votes before. They were definitely in the little bit of the running, but it was very clear Gus and Grisabella.
Yeah.
But
I think
Junior's not ready. So Junior does not make anybody ready to believe that Gus is going.
Yeah. And also Junior's like, fine, girl, take it at the end.
Yeah. That is, it's been fun. It's been fun to kind of see that the piece. And you get to, as Syllabub, kind of almost kick off the beginning of that ending and that number by being such the through line to the whole piece. And then you get to sing and harmonize with Isabella. So you get to kind of be the bring it home to the choice.
Which is very cute and fulfilling of me, dare I say.
Yeah. How can people stay in touch with you? And then, of course, I'll link how to get tickets because there's only 3 weeks left. And there are still some available, but they won't be if you're waiting. I'm sure they will be sold out before the end of the run.
Yeah, my Instagram, Teddy Wilson Jr., is probably the best place to get in touch with me. Otherwise, talk to my agents at Clear Talent Group.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're ready to hire Teddy, that's how you go. If you want to talk about fandom, Instagram is the way to go. So.
Yes, if you want to send me some flowers, you have to hit me up in my DMs.
Amazing. This has been so fun. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you so
awesome.
much.
And thanks everyone for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any else listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.